On the day of my daughter's funeral, my parents were nowhere to be seen. Worried, I called them. My mother sighed. There's no point in us going. Your sister and I are relaxing. Then my sister laughed. We're having cocktails on a Hawaiian beach. Stop talking about sad things, okay? I quietly cut ties with them. When they returned, what waited for them was autumn in Cleveland. Every morning, Melissa Walker rises early from her modest single-family home in a quiet Ohio neighborhood to start her day. She has worked as a school librarian at the local elementary school for over 10 years. Her conscientious personality and deep affection for children have earned her the trust of colleagues and parents alike. Amy, time to get up. Melissa knocks on her daughter's bedroom door upstairs. But there is no answer. Of course not. That room is empty now. Habits are terrifying things. Even a month after Amy's death, Melissa's body automatically goes through the motion of waking her daughter. 10-year-old Amy lost her battle with childhood leukemia last month after being diagnosed last year. Until Amy drew her final breath, Melissa never left the hospital for a single day. While eating breakfast, Melissa glances at the family photo hanging on the wall. The picture, taken 3 years ago, shows what was once a happy family of 3, Melissa, her ex-husband Jason, and Amy when she was healthy. Though divorced for 3 years now, Melissa maintained a good relationship with Jason. He was a responsible father who took joint custody seriously and remained by Amy's side throughout her illness. I wonder what my parents are doing right now, Melissa thinks as she picks up her coffee cup. Melissa's parents, Henry and Diana, ran a successful real estate company in suburban Cleveland. They were always immersed in their work, proud of their success and affluent lifestyle. Their luxurious mansion and expensive cars were testament to how much they valued social status. Money isn't everything, Melissa whispers to herself as she looks out the window. For Melissa, her relationship with her parents had always been complicated. From childhood, she couldn't remember receiving sufficient affection from them. In Henry and Diana's eyes, Melissa was always a not enough. Even when she excelled in school, they would say you could have done better, and when she majored in education in college, they were disappointed, saying you should have chosen a more lucrative profession. Meanwhile, her younger sister Cindy was always their parents' favorite. She worked at their real estate company and lived the life Henry and Diana expected. Cindy was successful, radiant, and beloved by their parents. At least, that's how it appeared to Melissa. When are Grandma and Grandpa coming? Amy had asked this question many times during her illness. But Henry and Diana rarely visited the hospital. They always had excuses like important meetings or in the middle of a big deal, postponing time with their granddaughter. Though pained by her parents' coldness, Melissa put on a brave face for her daughter. Grandma and Grandpa are really busy, but they're very worried about you, she would say while holding Amy's hand. However, on that early morning when Amy's condition suddenly deteriorated, Melissa's first call was to her parents. Amy's condition has worsened. Please come right away, she pleaded desperately. But Henry and Diana said they had an important breakfast meeting with clients and promised to come in the afternoon. That promise was never kept. Amy passed away quietly just after noon, watched over by Jason and Melissa, without seeing her grandparents' faces one last time. I need to finish getting ready. Melissa stands up and begins preparing for the day. Today is Amy's funeral, the day to say a final goodbye to her beloved daughter. Melissa still couldn't believe it. That child with an angelic smile was no longer in this world. While taking her morning shower, Melissa cried. She had decided these would be her last tears. She would be strong at her daughter's funeral. For Amy to send her off with dignity until the very end. St. John's Church, surrounded by ancient oak trees, was filled with people coming to bid farewell to a little angel. More people than expected had gathered for Amy's funeral. Melissa's colleagues from the elementary school, Amy's classmates and their families, neighbors and relatives who had traveled from afar. They had all come to mourn the bright, intelligent little girl. Melissa stood near the entrance of the church, quietly greeting people as they arrived. Her ex-husband Jason had come early and stood beside her. Even after their divorce, they had maintained a good relationship for their daughter's sake. Their bond had grown even deeper by sharing this grief. "Thank you for coming," Melissa said softly to a fellow teacher. "I brought the book Amy loved," the female teacher offered, holding out a book titled The Big Adventures of a Little Girl. It was the book Amy always borrowed from the school library. The clock showed 10. 30 minutes until the service began. Melissa suddenly realized something. Her parents and sister were nowhere to be seen. "Aren't Henry and Diana here yet?" asked her Aunt Martha worriedly. She was Henry's sister and the only person in the family who truly understood Melissa. "They should be here soon. I've contacted them several times," Melissa answered while taking out her mobile phone. There were no missed calls or messages from her parents. Melissa took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "No word from Cindy either?" Martha further inquired. "No, nothing from my sister either. I called yesterday and the day before, but it went to voicemail. What on earth is wrong with them?" Martha's expression showed anger. Being late to their granddaughter's funeral, Jason placed his hand on Melissa's shoulder. "Are you okay? We could delay the service a bit." Melissa shook her head. "No, let's start as scheduled. I don't want to keep Amy waiting." But internally, she was struggling with intense anxiety and anger. Could her parents really not come? No matter how strained their relationship, this was their granddaughter's funeral. As the start time approached and attendees began taking their seats, the priest approached Melissa to inform her that everything was ready. However, Melissa was still standing at the entrance, searching for her parents. "Could you wait just 5 more minutes?" Melissa asked the priest. "Of course. I understand how you feel." The priest smiled warmly and returned inside. With one last hope, Melissa took out her phone and dialed her mother's number. Her heart was pounding. One more time, her parents simply couldn't miss this. After several rings, the call finally connected. "Hello?" Melissa's voice trembled slightly. "The service is about to begin. Where are you?" After a brief silence, Diana's voice came through. But it was cold, as if coming from far away. And there was a sigh. "Melissa, listen. What's the point of us coming? I'm taking your sister for some refreshment." Melissa couldn't believe her ears. "What are you saying?" "Today is my daughter's funeral. I know." Diana's voice had its usual coldness. "But our being there won't change anything. Amy is gone now." "I can't believe this." Melissa's voice was shaking. She wasn't sure if it was from anger or sadness. "You." Just then, another voice came through the phone. It was her sister, Cindy. She seemed to have taken the phone. "Hey Melissa." Cindy's voice was cheerful, sounding somewhat elated. In the background, there were sounds of the ocean, people laughing, and upbeat music. "We're drinking cocktails on a beach in Hawaii. Let's not talk about depressing things, okay?" Melissa was at a loss for words. Standing at the church entrance, she was completely frozen. The background sounds told the whole story. Her parents and sister were enjoying a vacation in Hawaii on the day of her daughter's, their granddaughter's, their niece's funeral. Mom and Dad were really tired, so this vacation was necessary, Cindy continued. "I'm sad about Amy, but life goes on. You should start looking forward too, you know?" Melissa clutched the phone with trembling hands. She remembered Amy's face during her illness, saying so many times, "I want to see Grandma and Grandpa." The image of her daughter, enduring pain, but still looking forward to seeing her grandparents. And now, on her daughter's final day, her parents were drinking cocktails on a beach. "I understand." Melissa's voice suddenly became cold and composed, as if she were a different person. "This is the end. Don't contact me again? What are you saying?" "That's so dramatic." Cutting off Cindy's words, Melissa hung up. Jason, who had been standing there, immediately realized something had happened from Melissa's expression. "Melissa, what happened?" Melissa took a deep breath. Not a single tear flowed. Only a light of determination shone in her eyes. "My parents are in Hawaii. They're on vacation," she said matter-of-factly. "What?" Jason raised his voice. "You mean they—" "It's fine," Melissa said quietly. "Let's start the service. It's time to say goodbye to our daughter." She walked into the church with dignity. As attendees turned to look, Melissa faced straight ahead. Standing next to the priest, she smiled gently. "Please begin. Today, we celebrate Amy's life. Let's remember the love and joy she brought to all of us." Throughout the service, Melissa did not cry. She stood strong, with dignity. She smiled at Amy's photograph, recited her daughter's favorite poem, and finally placed a small white rose on the coffin. "Goodbye, my angel. You will always be in my heart," she whispered. Even as mourners expressed their condolences after the funeral, Melissa maintained her composure. However, in her heart, she had made another important decision, to completely sever her relationship with her parents and sister. That day, Melissa's life split in two. It was a day of grief for losing her beloved daughter, and a day when she cut the final ties with her parents. She had resolved to live by her own strength, carrying Amy's memory in her heart. The sound of cold rain tapping on the window interrupted Melissa's thoughts. She sat by the window in the Cleveland Children's Hospital cafeteria, holding her coffee cup with both hands. 2 weeks had passed since Amy's funeral. The deep sadness continued, but it was no longer the intense pain of before. It had become a dull ache quietly residing within her. "You've been deep in thought." When Melissa looked up, Dr. Sarah Cohen, Amy's attending physician, was sitting across from her. Sarah was a pediatric oncologist in her mid-40s who had supported Amy throughout her battle as her primary doctor. "I'm sorry, I was just thinking." Melissa smiled. "It's okay. I understand." Sarah looked at Melissa with kind eyes. Amy was a wonderful child. Her strength and hope had a big impact on the other children too. Melissa nodded, holding back tears. She never gave up. "I want to do something to keep her name alive." Sarah looked at Melissa with interest. "What are you thinking of doing?" "I haven't decided exactly yet." Melissa searched for words. "Something like a foundation to support children battling illness like Amy and their families." Sarah's face brightened. "That's a wonderful idea. Actually, I've been feeling the need for such support too. Children fighting diseases need not only medical care, but also emotional support." Melissa nodded quietly. During Amy's illness, she had witnessed many families struggling with financial problems and psychological burdens. Parents who had to quit their jobs to dedicate everything to their child's treatment. Families struggling with transportation costs to commute from distant places. "The Amy Walker Foundation for Pediatric Cancer Patients," Melissa said quietly. "What do you think?" "A perfect name," Sarah agreed wholeheartedly. "If there's anything I can do, just let me know. I could serve as a medical advisor." From that day, Melissa's new mission began. First, when she told her ex-husband Jason about the foundation concept, he immediately supported it. Giving back to society what Amy left behind, that's what she would have wanted. Melissa began the process of establishing the foundation with part of the insurance money and her savings. When her school colleagues learned of her initiative, they offered support in various ways. The art teacher helped with logo design, administrative staff assisted with website creation, and the principal provided school facilities as an initial meeting place. The crowdfunding was also surprisingly successful. Many people touched by Amy's story donated more than twice the target amount in just 1 month. Local media had begun to take notice of this inspiring initiative. An article in the Cleveland Daily titled, "A Little Angel's Big Legacy of Hope" detailed Amy's battle and the foundation her mother had established. The article featured a smiling photo of Amy and a poem she had written in her hospital room called "The Day I'll Fly." Meanwhile, Henry and Diana, having returned from Hawaii, began to notice the lack of contact from Melissa. For the first few days they thought, Melissa is still angry. However, as 1 week, then 2 weeks passed with no contact, they finally began to feel uneasy. "Time will resolve this," Diana told her husband. "Melissa has always been emotional. She'll contact us when she calms down." But unbeknownst to them, Melissa's resolve had hardened. Her relationship with her parents was completely over. In her heart, there was no longer any place for them. One day, a month after Amy's death, Melissa was heading to her office. The foundation's activities had officially begun, and she had taken half-day leave from work to handle foundation business. Her phone rang, a call from an unknown number. "This is Michael Brown, an attorney with Green and Associates law firm." A male voice responded politely. "Do you have a moment?" "Yes, that's fine." Melissa felt a little tense. "How can I help you?" "Actually, I've been contacted by your mother, Diana Foster," the lawyer explained calmly. "Your parents have been trying to reach you, but there's been no response." "I have nothing to say to them." Melissa's voice was cold and clear. "If my parents truly wanted to contact me, why didn't they return immediately from Hawaii? Why didn't they even come to my daughter's funeral?" The lawyer cleared his throat on the other end. "I'm not aware of those details, but then please relay this message," Melissa said quietly but firmly. "I will not be contacting them. I have no intention of ever seeing them again. This decision is non-negotiable." After ending the call, Melissa felt strangely lighter. That afternoon she made a decision. To send her parents the letter Amy had written to her grandparents just before she died. She decided to send the letter through the lawyer. Amy's last message, written in childish handwriting on white stationery. Dear Grandpa and Grandma, I understand you're too busy to visit me, but I wanted to see you just once before going to heaven. Mommy says you have important work. But I feel lonely. Was I a bad girl? Is that why you didn't come to see me? Love, Amy. With that letter, she added a brief note from herself. These are my daughter's last words. The hospital staff has also seen the photos of your Hawaii trip. Please don't contact me again. The day after sending the letter, Melissa's phone showed a dozen missed calls. All from her parents. But she didn't answer any of them. She ignored all emails and voicemails. Her resolve was firm. The following week, an event was held for the opening of the foundation's office. It was a small space in a corner of Cleveland Children's Hospital, but it was filled with hope. Many people gathered to celebrate the foundation's launch. As Melissa was finishing her speech, Henry and Diana appeared at the entrance. Diana's eyes were red from crying, and Henry's expression was filled with anguish. Cindy was not with them. As they tried to approach Melissa, Dr. Sarah and Jason stepped in front of them. Please don't upset Melissa today, Sarah said in a calm, professional voice. This is an important day for her and Amy. But we want to, Diana began, but Jason interrupted. That's enough. Melissa has made it clear she doesn't want to see you. Please respect that. Henry tried to protest, but noticing the cold stares from those around, he fell silent. They seemed to finally understand that they were completely isolated from everyone present. That night, Melissa slept peacefully for the first time in a long while. In her dream, Amy appeared. Mom, it's okay. I'm watching over everyone. She smiled. When she woke up, tears were streaming down Melissa's cheeks, but these tears came not from sadness, but from quiet relief and determination. Her life from now on would be dedicated to carrying on Amy's legacy and supporting families experiencing the same suffering. And as for her relationship with her parents, that door was closed forever. On an autumn afternoon, as the trees began to change color, the conference room at Cleveland Clinic was bustling with people. Local political and business leaders, medical professionals, and children battling cancer and their families. They had all gathered to celebrate this special day. Today, Cleveland Clinic is proud to announce that a new section of the pediatric ward will be named the Amy Walker Wing, declared Dr. Robert Simmons, the hospital director, from the podium. Amy's short life and the dedicated work of the foundation established by her mother, Melissa Walker, have deeply impacted our entire community. As applause erupted from the audience, Melissa sat quietly next to Jason. 3 months had passed since Amy's death. During this time, her foundation had achieved remarkable growth. Thanks to a major donation from a well-known local philanthropist, the foundation was able to provide financial support to families of pediatric cancer patients, hire counselors for emotional care, and even start a program to subsidize transportation and accommodation costs associated with treatment. When Melissa took the stage, the room fell silent. Today, I want to express my gratitude to everyone and share my daughter Amy's dream. Her voice was emotional, yet strong. Amy said she wanted to create a place where sick children could play with smiles on their faces. Today, part of that dream comes true. Her brief speech was moving, particularly her final words, which were etched into many hearts. I'm grateful I could be by my daughter's side at the end. I've realized how important it is to have family who stays with you. Every child has the right to be loved. Every child has the right to be surrounded by those who care until their final moment. These words were broadcast on the local TV news. That night, Henry and Diana watched the news in their living room. Melissa's words pierced their hearts like needles, especially the part about how important it is to have family who stays with you, which seemed clearly directed at them. She won't forgive us, will she? Diana said, holding her wine glass with trembling hands. Henry silently stared out the window. Over the past 3 months, his real estate company had gradually begun losing customers. Long-term clients were terminating contracts one after another, and new clients were decreasing. At first he thought it was economic fluctuation, but last week a former client told him the real reason. To be honest, Mr. Foster, continuing to do business with your company has become a risk to my image. I read the article about Amy's foundation. You? Remembering those words, Henry grimaced. He could feel the reputation and business he had built over many years beginning to crumble loudly. "Have you heard from Cindy?" Diana asked. "No. She's probably overwhelmed with her own problems." It was last week when Cindy's fiancé's family announced they were breaking the engagement. They had been in a relationship for many years, but the breakup came suddenly. Henry, in his anger, called the fiancé's father. "Why?" he demanded, to which the fiancé's father coldly replied, "Let me be clear, Mr. Foster. We don't want to be associated with people who skip their sick granddaughter's funeral to party in Hawaii. I cannot allow my son to be connected to such a family." Cindy was furious at this news. "That girl's funeral has nothing to do with us." Unfortunately, these words were recorded by one of her fiancé's friends and spread on social media. Within days, people all over Cleveland had heard the recording, and criticism of Cindy poured in. She had to temporarily leave her job and was staying with a friend in another state. The final blow for Henry and Diana came on Sunday at church. They had been dedicated members of this church for years, but now they had no place there. When the pastor praised Melissa's foundation's activities during Sunday service and sought the congregation's support, the gazes directed at them were cold. "Christ teaches us to cherish the weak, especially children," the pastor preached passionately. Melissa Walker's initiative is precisely putting that teaching into practice. As our church, let us support this wonderful activity. After the gathering, many church members avoided Henry and Diana, not even greeting them. Margot Pierce, who had been their friend for many years, finally told them the truth. Everyone knows Henry, Diana. As Amy's anniversary approached, the local paper ran a feature on Amy and the foundation. That article included the contents of Amy's farewell letter and how she had wanted to see her grandparents until the very end. "Yet we've been misunderstood," Diana desperately tried to explain. "At that time, we really had important." "That's enough," Margot interrupted with a sad face. "I'm telling you this because of our 30 years of friendship. You've made a terrible mistake. If you truly regret it, think about Amy first. And try to understand Melissa." Diana was speechless. On their way home, she and Henry maintained silence. Having lost their social status, respect, friendships, and most importantly, their bond with family, they felt true loneliness for the first time. "What should we do?" Diana asked in a small voice. After a long silence, Henry made a decision. "Let's take our last hope. There's a charity event hosted by Melissa's foundation this weekend. Let's go with a donation and try to see her. Do you think she'll meet with us? I don't know. But we have to try." On Saturday evening, Henry and Diana appeared at the charity gala held at the Cleveland Museum of Art, looking tense. They dressed modestly and sat inconspicuously in the back. Henry tightly gripped an envelope containing a substantial donation. When the event host introduced Melissa and she took the stage, the venue welcomed her with warm applause. Melissa spoke calmly about the foundation's activities and future plans. She was no longer a mother crushed by grief, but a strong woman with a mission. After her speech, Melissa began mingling with the participants. Henry and Diana summoned their courage and approached her. Diana called out in a small voice. Melissa turned around and saw her parents. There was no surprise in her expression, just quiet recognition. "What can I do for you?" Her voice was calm, devoid of emotion. "Please forgive us." At that time, Diana began to apologize tearfully. Melissa quietly interrupted. "Forgiveness is not easy. But this foundation's work is about keeping Amy's name alive and supporting families experiencing the same suffering. I appreciate your donation, but I cannot welcome you back into my life." The attendees watched this exchange in silence, and Henry and Diana fully understood, for the first time, the irreparable consequences their actions had brought. They quietly handed over the envelope and left the venue without another word. A year had passed since Amy's death. It was the season when new green leaves sprout and nature regains life, the time Amy loved most. "Ready?" A voice came from the door. Jason was standing there with a smile. Melissa nodded quietly. "Yes, let's go." Much had changed in this year. Melissa had quit her library job to become a full-time staff member of the Amy Walker Foundation for Pediatric Cancer Patients. The foundation had become recognized throughout the state, partnering with 3 hospitals and supporting dozens of families each month. And another change: Melissa and Jason's relationship. Through the tragedy of losing their daughter, the two had begun to grow close again. Their friendly post-divorce relationship had deepened further through their shared grief and mission. They weren't yet at the stage of being a couple, but something was certainly blossoming. "Today is a special day," Melissa said in the car. On Amy's death anniversary, they were heading to visit her grave. "She would be proud," Jason answered, keeping his eyes on the road, "of what you've accomplished this year." When they arrived at the cemetery, they walked quietly. As they approached Amy's grave, an unexpected sight met their eyes. A small bouquet had already been placed there. Melissa stopped and picked up the card attached to the bouquet. It read, "We love you, Amy. From Grandpa and Grandma." They came. Melissa's voice was controlled of emotion. "What do you want to do?" Jason asked. Melissa quietly returned the bouquet to its original place and arranged it alongside the flowers they had brought. "These are for Amy, not for me." That afternoon, when Melissa returned to the foundation office, Nurse Linda was waiting for her. "I need to talk to you," Linda said with some hesitation. "Diana Foster has been hospitalized. Advanced pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Melissa gasped. "Since when?" "She was diagnosed 3 weeks ago. She wants to see you." That night, Melissa thought long and hard. The next day, she was walking quietly down the hospital corridor. When she entered Diana's room, there was no trace of the strong mother she once knew, only a frail old woman lying there. Henry stood up with a surprised expression. "Melissa." Without saying anything, Melissa sat by the bedside and quietly took Diana's hand. "I cannot forgive what you did," she said quietly, "but I think Amy would feel differently. She wanted to see you until the very end. That's who she was." To the tearful Diana, Melissa continued, "I won't become like you. I'll provide the support you need. But this isn't reconciliation. I'm just doing what Amy would have wanted." After Melissa left, Diana and Henry didn't exchange words. They had lost their fortune, fame, and friends. And most importantly, they had lost the love of their daughter and granddaughter. But today, for the first time, they felt as if a slight gap had opened in what had been a completely closed door. For the next few months, Melissa occasionally visited the hospital. She hadn't forgiven her parents, but she didn't want to live in complete hatred either. On Amy's second death anniversary, from her hospital bed, Diana quietly said to Melissa, "She really was a special child, wasn't she?" Melissa answered while gazing out the window, "Yes. That's why I don't want to do anything that would tarnish her memory." Some relationships cannot be repaired. But Melissa was beginning to think that forgiveness might be possible, little by little. Not for herself, but for Amy. For her daughter watching from heaven,